What if the way you've been telling your life story reveals the secret to what is holding you back? Stories play an integral part in how we see not only ourselves, but the whole world. Stories are more than just an important part of communication. They also reveal hidden aspects of our inner talk, which can either support us or end up holding us back from the very things we want most in life, without us even realizing it. Join author, mindset coach, and award-winning singer-songwriter Carrie Rowan on her show, Look for the Good, every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. when she shares nuggets of wisdom from her internationally best-selling book, Tell a New Story, 5 Simple Steps to Release Your Negative Stories and Bring Joy to Your Life. Carrie's powerful stories and compelling guests will empower you to change how you look at your own life while giving you some powerful tools and tips you can use every day to help you feel better and move yourself closer to the life you've been longing to live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Look for the Good. I'm your host, Carrie Rowan, mindset strategist, speaker, and coach. And I just love sharing nuggets of wisdom about the stories that we tell each other. And more importantly, those quiet little stories that we tell inside our head that we don't normally share. And I want you to join me and my special guest as we share our personal stories of strength and triumph every week here on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. You can listen online on your mobile device, in your car, or ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio and tune into my show every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time to get real stories and tips on how to turn your story and your life around. And join us, evolve with us as we unite humankind with universal love. So, hello, everybody. And I'm so excited to welcome you here today because we are on the cusp of a brand new year. Yes, yes, we are. And it is 2025, my friends. It is January 2nd when I'm recording this for you. And I'm so excited. I hope you're excited too. I love this feeling of the new year, the hope, all the fun stuff bubbling up inside of us, right? The excitement, the anticipation, the manifestation. There's a lot of things that are really growing within us. And I feel like it's a nice ending to 2024. And now we can launch into the freshness. I love the freshness. I love a new start. I love cleaning out my office and doing all those things. And I love cleaning up my stories, right? Why is that so important? Because you guys know I'm like obsessed with stories. My whole book, Tell a New Story, is about those stories. I talk about my stories, my personal stories, even the ones that I didn't want to talk about, the ones that I wish didn't happen, because inside those stories lie our superpower. And this time of year is a great time to go in and take a look at some of those stories, to find those stories, to catch those stories, those little ones that have our limiting beliefs hidden inside of them. Those are the ones I want you to focus on this year. I want you to start thinking about what they are. What are the stories that I'm telling myself that might not be true? Because we can start to get in there and question those and really unfold all the little aspects of those stories that we don't even realize are holding us back from the very things that we do want in life. Because that's what can happen. Because we start to believe our own BS belief systems, right? We start to believe it. And when we can get in there and unravel some of that, it will give you this sense of freedom and peace that you just have not felt in a while. I guarantee it. So let's talk about the new year. Let's talk about what it is that you want. Today, I am your special guest, and I'm super excited to do this special show today to talk all about this. I'm going to teach you something here today. We're going to talk about New Year's resolutions a little bit. Why? Because it's on everybody's mind. We're thinking about that, right? We're like, okay, I need to change, fill in the blank. So I want you to think for a minute. What is that thing that you want to change? What do you want to be different in your life? Do you want to make more money? Do you want to find a job with more purpose? Do you want to be a better parent? Whatever it is, it usually involves something that we want to get better at, right? So the question is, how do we really do that? How do we go about that? And here's the funny thing. Why don't resolutions work? I love talking about this. Why don't I believe in resolutions? Because let's face it, 2 weeks from now, a lot of those resolutions that we set on, that fun night on December 31st, and then we thought about it again on the 1st, they don't happen. Why is that? We fall short. 2 weeks into it, most people have not even done much of what they said they were going to do. But why is that? Because resolutions don't work. Why don't they work? It's like, you go to the gym and you start with a new gym and you sign up for it and all that good stuff. And did you ever notice all the new people? Like maybe you already belong there and you see all the new people that flock in at the beginning of the year, but then where do they go come February 1st? They're all like gone. Like by the time mid February hits, they're gone. They're just back on their couch. I don't know where they are. But we've all done that. We've all had a resolution that didn't work out for us. But why? Why is that? Why doesn't it work out? And that's what I want to talk about. We're going to talk about why I don't think they even make sense. I don't even set them for myself anymore. And I tell my clients not to even bother because we want to talk about something bigger. We want to talk about what is the change that you really want. Do you want to call it a goal? Call it whatever you want, but we can't think our way there, right? That's what we try to do. We write it down, we're super excited about it, and we get a little bit of momentum. We might even start going to the gym, or we might stop drinking wine that we said we were going to, or we might even fill in the blank. What is it for you? Stop biting your nails, become, spend more time writing in your office, whatever it is that, whatever that goal is that you want to accomplish. Think about it right now. What happens? Well, we think that we can think our way through it. And I feel like that's where we get tripped up, right? Like we haven't brought that change into our bodies. And as somebody who I love to study neuroscience, I love all things mind and brain and mindset, but you have to think about the physiology in there as well. Because here's what happens, right? We set that great thing. We want to accomplish this. We're super excited about it. We know we can do it, right? And then something happens. What happens? Well, stress happens, life happens, things happen that we did not expect to happen. And that trips us up, right? We didn't anticipate. We didn't think about, okay, well, XYZ is going to happen, or I don't know, I'm going to break my toe and I can't go to the gym. What's going to happen? What's going to be the big stressor for me? We don't know what that is, right? But one thing we can certainly guarantee in life is the stuff is going to hit the fan. So what do you do about it, right? Because here's what happened. Most people, they get all excited and then they don't do it. And then if you were to ask them, hey, why didn't you make that New Year's resolution? You said you were going to work out 3 times a week. You didn't do it. Why is that? No judgment, but why? Most people, you know what they say? It's willpower. It's a willpower. I just don't have the willpower. My mom didn't have it. My dad didn't have it. Yeah, my sisters don't have it either. So it must be a willpower thing. I just don't have the willpower. Or I don't have the self discipline to do it. And I'm going to take it one step further and say that's really not it. That might be part of it, but what happens is we can't plan and expect for those interrupters, right? Those little interrupters that come in our way and they get in the way. We have a flat tire. We can't go to the gym. I have this big project at work and I'm getting so many extra things that I didn't expect. I can't do it. I just can't do it. There's too many things going on, right? These are the things that get in the way. So, what do we do if it's not a willpower thing and it's all these interrupters? It's the stress. It's the stress that we haven't learned to manage. And how do we deal with that, right? How do we get over it? How do we put things in place so that we can say, okay, when this does happen, here's what I'm going to do instead? Because that's the problem. It's not a habit yet. It hasn't had 21 days to become a habit yet. So, it's not a knee jerk reaction that we're going to automatically do it. We're just going to put our gym clothes on and we're going to go. I'm using that example because that's what a lot of people want to do. So, what do we do? What do we do to make it a habit if we don't have 21 days? We're one, we're two, we're 3 days into that. What do we do? Well, I'm going to venture to say that you got to get this, call it whatever you want, resolution, goal, intention into your body. Because if you try to think your way through it, it's not going to happen. Because what happens? The interrupter comes, whatever it is, your kid's sick, you can't make it there that day. And then the bad momentum starts catching. So maybe if you can get some good momentum going, that will certainly help you. But what do you do when that happens? You got to put something in place. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. You got to put something in place so that when the stuff hits the fan, you have a new response because you know what's going to happen. The same stuff that always used to happen, the same stuff that happened the year before and the year before that. Excuse me. The stress is going to hit and you're going to go into your normal pattern of dealing with stress. Why? Because yes, you want that resolution, but you didn't have a plan for the stress. And let's talk about it, people. That's what's going to happen. The stress is going to hit and you're not going to have a plan. So, what's your plan going to be? You got to think about that. You got to back into it because we know the stuff's going to hit the fan. So, if you can think about it in terms of making that a habit, what's my new habit going to be? I know what my resolution is going to be, but what am I going to do when fill in the blank, when X happens? What am I going to do when something causes me stress? Because then what's going to happen? We're all wired this way too. We're going to go into that back brain. We're going to be all stressed out. The chemicals are going to flood our body. We're not going to be able to think clearly because we're not here in the prefrontal cortex. We're way back here. We're back here in that animal instinct brain. And all we're going to do is go back to our old patterns. What's your old pattern? I don't know. Maybe it's getting a pint of ice cream and sitting on the couch, not going to the gym. Maybe when you get stressed, you're going to reach for that glass of wine that you said you didn't want to have. Maybe when you get stressed, you're going to get angry, or you're going to go huddle in a ball and just watch Netflix all night. I don't know, whatever it is for you. And there's no judgment here. We all have our thing, right? So know yourself, know thyself. It's one of the first things I talk about in my first chapter is to know thyself. What are your patterns? What are your tendencies? What's your go-to when you get stressed? Because you're going to have to find a way around that. Because as much as you want that resolution or that goal for yourself, if you didn't plan something, if you don't have something in place to deal with those things when they come up, and they will, it's not going to happen. So that's why we can't think our way through there. We can pull out all our positive thinking, we can get our mantras, we can try to talk ourselves into it. But when that stress hits, it's physical, isn't it? It takes you over, it takes you down. It can take you down if we let it, because we're all wired that way. So we need something. We need a positive interrupter because we know that those things are going to come along and try to throw us off our track. So that's why we can't think our way through it. Yes, I love mantras. I love all those things, but something has to change in our biology. This is what I like to call overcoming our biology. And I love teaching this to my clients. Overcoming our biology. What do you mean? What does that mean? Well, our biology is that we get stressed and then we go into that fight or flight, right? You know what yours is. And it's that cascading hormones, like we talked about. It physically changes your body, right? That's why you can't think your way through it. You have to have something else. You have to have a new go to. And we're going to talk about what that new go to is. So it's really not the resolution that's the problem. It's our reaction to it. It's the stress that we feel. It's the story that we start to tell ourselves about why you can't have that and why that's not for you and why the good stuff never happens for you. It's that story that starts playing when you get into the stress mode. You ever know that notice that? That's why for clients, it's harder to catch those really good stories. I call them good stories. They're really the nasty little ones, but they're good because inside of them, you can have major transformations if you figure out what they are. If you can get that little phrase, that little nasty phrase you say to yourself when you get stressed, because in that is a lot of information, and we can help to turn that story around if we know what it is. So that's what happens. Our brain gets in there. We start doing all that crazy stuff into our back brain. Our bodies are changed, and we can't think our way out of that. So we go right into that instant knee jerk reaction, right? And so we're no longer thinking, we're no longer in our rational brain, like we talked about before. We just automatically go back into those old patterns. And some of those things were put in there before we were 7 years old, but we're still using them. But I'm going to ask you this question. If we created a lot of those stories and a lot of those beliefs and a lot of those knee jerk pattern reactions, a lot of them were handed down from other people to us, and we decided that that's was going to be ours, or that we would believe that, and that's okay, because again, we all do that. I'm normalizing this as our biology, but you can change it. You can decide that you're sick of that, because you wouldn't let a 7-year-old drive your car, would you? But yet we let that 7-year-old brain, those thoughts, those belief systems drive our car, our vehicle here, right? We do. We all do. It's not just you. We all do it, right? So, how do you get out ahead of it? That, my friends, is the $1,000,000 question. And I love that. I love the thought of getting out ahead of it, because we all know what good mindset is, right? It's just hard to keep yourself there. If you can find a way to get out ahead of your own mindset, and I'm going to suggest 3 ways, and we're going to talk about those after the break. But if you can get out ahead of that mindset, if you can have something that works for you every single time, and then again is also knowing yourself what's going to work for you, and it's okay to try different stuff, right? But when you have something that helps you get out ahead of it, and that starts like when you first wake up in the morning, and I'm going to talk to you about some of those ways, things that you can do to help yourself get out ahead of it before the stuff starts hitting the fan. Because here's the thing, like I'll give you an example. For me, I love meditation. Why? Because it calms my whole nervous system. It calms me, and it gives me this greater capacity. It's like, for me, like this wave inside of me. It's this wave of calm. and it gives me the capacity. That's my getting out ahead of mindset. Why? Because now I've built up my stamina. I have something to fall back on. I have some space that I created in my body so that instead of doing that knee jerk reaction, I can choose how I want to respond. That's a really different thing than that knee jerk reaction that we're so used to, right? The one that's programmed here. And I'm here to tell you, you can change that. You can definitely change that. And figuring it out and doing something beforehand so that you already have a calmer system. You already understand your own nervous system and what works for you because everybody's different when it comes to that, right? When it comes to what works for calming and what doesn't. So that's why we can't think our way out of it because we got to get it in our bodies. We got to put it in our bodies. We have to have a practice, if you will. And I'm not saying meditation is your 100% thing just because I like it, but you can like it if you want. And I do have 5 meditations in my book that are guided meditations that will help you through this. But again, you got to figure out what works for you, right? You can try some stuff and see what works for you. Maybe you already know what works for you. Here's another thing that happens. We know the good thing. We know what we should be doing, don't we? 90% of the time, we know what we should be doing. We do. We know we should be more productive. We know what we should be doing with our calendar, but we don't do it. We don't do the things that we know are good for us. Why? Because that other brain talks us out of it. That nasty little one that says we can't do it. We let that talk us out of the good things. We know if I was to give you a piece of paper and you wrote down all the things that you could do, it would be beautiful. It would be a great synopsis of all the things that would calm your nervous system. So you already know. You already know what they are, right? So let's find a way to get yourself to do it. And the only way to do that is to make it a habit. And before you can even do that, because we didn't have the 21 days yet, right? Is to back into that, right? To set yourself up at the very beginning of the day so that you have a better chance because we already know that the stress is going to hit. We can just count on that. We can count on that just like change. We can count on change in life. We can count on stress in life. And the real ticket is what are you going to do with it? And when you have a plan in place, right? My mom told me that many years ago, always have a plan. Always have a plan for something, even if it's not going to happen. Just think about your plan because people who have a plan react better in all sorts of situations, especially those under pressure crisis situations. If you already had a plan in your mind, you're going to go back, you're going to pull on that plan right in that moment when the stress is hitting it and your front brain is shut off. Something inside you is going to remember that plan. So let's think about a plan. That's what I'm going to talk to you about is making a plan for yourself, right? So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about that. We talked about why it doesn't work. And here's the other thing that is so important that I tell people when you start doing this work, especially when you start doing these catching your story work, it can really piss you off. And it can really make you be hard on yourself. And I want you to have a little bit of self-compassion when you're doing this work because hey, we all tell ourselves stories. We created those stories long ago and it was helping us to solve a problem. It was helping us to understand the world around us because that's what stories do, right? They help make sense of things. So if you created a story when you're little to help yourself and calm your nervous system, that's okay. But you can look at it and you can thank that story and you can let that story go on its way. Right? It served its purpose. All stories have a noble purpose and a reason that we were telling them. And a lot of times stories can serve to fill in a need for us. It's a way to fill a need for ourselves that we weren't getting met. It can be a way to ask people for things that we weren't getting. So there's a lot of stuff wrapped up in our stories. It's not just a story, there's a reason that you were telling it. So I beg you to please have some self compassion as you start to do this work. It's powerful work, it's fun work, but it's also, you don't want to spend too much time feeling bad about a story that you're telling. It's okay. We've all done that, right? So it's okay. You can kind of treat that story like as if it were your inner child, right? You were telling it for a reason. You were probably most likely trying to protect yourself in some way, shape, or form because, hey, friends, that's what our mind is always doing. It is always trying to keep us safe and protect us. So that's where these stories are evolved from. That's what they're birthed out of. So you can just thank them, thank yourself for trying to protect yourself. But you got this now. You're an adult now and you got this now and you're ready to take that story and create something good out of it, right? I talk a lot about that in my book as well. It's the three R's of our stories, right? The reduce, reuse, recycle. But you're going to do the reduce, reuse, recycle on your stories. And I explain how to do that in the book. It's powerful stuff. So we're wrapping this up. And before we go, remember, you're going to be very compassionate when you're doing this work. Get yourself a little notebook so you can start to catch those stories when you figure out what they are, those disempowering stories that somebody said about you, to you. And here's the other thing, sometimes those stories are really good. Somebody said, "Oh, wow, you're really good at that." Write those stories down too. Make sure you're catching the good stories when you're catching the disempowering stories, because stories are so powerful. A lot of times we talk about the ones that are negative, but there are a lot of positive ones in there. Your English teacher said to you one time, "Wow, you know what? You'd be a really great writer. You're super creative." Or maybe your music teacher said, "Wow, you have a real gift with that instrument. Keep playing." That one little thing that somebody said that was really good, that really made you feel good about yourself. What's that story? I want to hear the story behind that story and how that might have compelled you to do something in your life that you might not have ever done if that person had never said that story. Wow, you're stronger than you think. You really can do that. Whatever yours is, jot it down, right? Because when we're trying to find those yucky stories, we can also bump into the really, really good stories. And those are a powerhouse. I have people keep those in a separate folder, in the feel good folder. You can keep all those stories in there. So make sure you're making note of the good stories. And when we come back from break, I'm going to tell you 3 ways that you can get out ahead of this so that those dreams can be much more of a reality this year in 2025. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Look for the Good. This is so fun. I'm having a conversation with myself and you today, and I love it. I love just talking directly to you today. And don't worry, we will go back to our having special guests, but I thought this would be a really fun way to mix it up. So, okay, what are the 3 ways you're saying to yourself? I hope you have your pencil and your pen. Unless you're driving, just come back and listen to this later on my download. So, I alluded earlier to what this was, but number one, for 3 ways to help you get this into your body and make this a habit, is to set up what I call a non negotiable morning routine. And why is it non negotiable? It's non negotiable because it's non negotiable to anybody else in your life, but it's also non negotiable to yourself. Why? Because if you don't start doing this one little thing for yourself, then you're never going to do the big goal that you want to do, right? So, this little morning routine is crucial. It is so crucial to your success of whatever that bigger goal is that you want, whatever that resolution is that you want. Because what this does is it really sets the stage. Because let's face it, we're all human. I have been doing self development work for decades, but yet, you know what? I still need my morning routine. I still need, you can't see them, but behind you on the back of my desk are all these little sticky notes that remind me of things that I need to remember, because we're all human and I forget and I get wrapped up in the stress too and the woulda, shoulda, coulda stories. And so we need something to pull us back. And my morning routine does that for me, right? So, what is a morning routine? Well, it could be anything. Again, mine looks like I like to get my tea and make my tea and come back into my office and I want to sit down. I'm normally a stander. I have a stand-up desk, but this is when I sit down. I sit down and I'm going to go through what I call my little 3x5 little cards. And I've used these for decades, I want to say. Back in my corporate days, I first created them. And on these little cards are my goals, but they're also bigger than that. My intentions, like an intention is bigger than a goal. You've got your goal, maybe what your earnings want to be that year, or something you want to accomplish, how many times a week you want to work out, or how much time I want to spend writing, or if I want to do a new writing project or create new meditations, whatever. So I'll jot those down. And when we sit down in the morning and we reflect on this stuff, it reminds us, it gets us in the right mindset. It jazzes us up. You have to have a purpose that is bigger than yourself, because that's what drives us to do any meaningful work in this world, is to have that purpose. So we have that purpose. We want to remind ourselves, what is it? Who am I? What am I all about? What am I doing all this stuff for anyways? What difference do I want to make? What's my legacy that I want to leave? Make it bigger. Make it about the other people that you impact in your life when you do these things, right? Because when you think about them every day and you imagine what you're going to feel like when you get there, that's where the power lies, my friends. So make this non negotiable morning routine. And also, part of mine is to meditate because I know that meditation gives me that space. Like I said before, when I spend the time in the quiet, and it doesn't have to be long. If you're just starting, it could be 5 minutes. I don't care how long it is. I don't care what flavor you like. There's a lot of different types. I like, it depends. I'll switch from thing to thing, whatever I'm in the mood for that day in terms of meditation and what you have time for, right? There's longer ones and there's shorter ones. But fundamentally, it gives me that space. That space. And here's the cool thing, that space inside of you, that wave I explained before, it's like a wave of calm. And why is that important? Because what happens is, as the stress hits, if you don't have anything to fall back on, if you don't have a wave of calm, then there is no reserve. You have no reserve in there, right? It's like a reserve of anything. It's like a reserve gas tank. You need a reserve to tap into when you need it most. And if there is none there, you're in deep doo doo. So that builds a reserve. And here's the cool thing that I love about it: whatever your positive thing is that you're going to do for yourself, excuse me, to build that reserve, starts to grow exponentially over time. So you know how like stress builds up in your body? Like I like to think about it like an emotional backpack. Like you start putting stuff in there, putting stuff in, all of a sudden the thing is so full. If you don't unload that thing, it is gonna bust open at the seams, right? And what we don't realize is the negative stuff starts to pile up, and that's not good. That's not good at all. That's where explosions come from. But the positive stuff starts to accumulate too, which is really cool. So the more you meditate, it has this exponential effect for you. The more you're calming that nervous system, the more reserves you have within you, the more that when somebody comes to you with that, whatever it is, something explosive, some big stress thing, throw some big project on your desk, you pull on that. You go to that reserve. You can literally start to feel it in your body. And it's a really beautiful thing. And that's where peace comes from, my friends, is building that reserve within you, right? And so, whatever that is for you, I want you to find it. I want you to build a little morning routine. What is your morning routine going to look like? Non negotiable morning routine, by the way. What is it going to be? Do you like to journal? Because I also love to journal. I have reams and reams of notebooks journaling. That's where I got my first full length album, is out of journaling. Journaling your thoughts, journaling your feelings. It doesn't have to make a whole lot of sense. It just makes sense for you. It's something you do for you, and it's super therapeutic. So maybe that's your go to, right? I like to do a combination of different things. And on different days, I might feel like I need more journaling than or meditation one day, or I'm going to spend more time going through my cards or adding some more things I want to think about in there. Or maybe I have a brand new mantra that I'm trying out and I want to practice that. Or maybe a friend and I are doing something where we each send each other an intention for the day. We send it to each other on text. That's a fun thing to do. Um, Having somebody help you with it and have some accountability is a really powerful piece of this too. So if you have it like a buddy, like I have a friend that we call each other our spiritual running mates, if you have one of those or you don't, go find one. Hey, you want to be my spiritual running mate to one of your friends? If somebody who's kind of into the same stuff, reads the same books, into the same things as you, they could be that for you. You could hold each other accountable. Hey, did you do your non-negotiable morning routine today? And you might not even get the whole thing done. That's okay. It's the intention. You're sitting down to do it. And guess what? The cool thing that happens is when you start doing it and you start feeling better, you're going to keep going back to doing it. That's why it becomes a routine. It becomes a practice for you. And that, my friends, is how you're going to accomplish these goals. And it's getting it into your body. It's making it a habit. Your body starts to get used to. Your body likes it. It likes to offload some of that stress. It likes that. It wants more of that. And you're going to want more of it because you're going to sleep better. You're going to have more clarity of mind. Everything's going to get better around you because you're doing this, right? Because we are affecting everybody else around us, right? That energy that we're sending out, that vibration starts to rise. It starts to get higher. You start to move up more towards the happiness and joy being the top of that scale. You start to move slowly up there, right? And that I think some people have kind of unrealistic expectations they think they can get from like despair to happiness. That's not happening. You got to work your way up there, right? It's just one little step at a time. That's all you got to do. One little baby step. Feel a little bit better every day and a little bit better and a little bit better. And before you know it, you look back 30 days from now and you're like, wow, I'm feeling so much better. Oh, and guess what? I'm doing all the things that I wanted to do to move me towards that, to move me towards that goal that I wanted, that thing that I wanted to accomplish, the way that I wanted to feel, because really it's all a feeling. We're going to talk about that too. Okay, so you've got that. That's super important. How do you get out ahead of it? Number one, set up your non negotiable morning routine and write it out for yourself. You can have little cards like I do. If I see a great quote that really inspires me, I'll put that on a little card and I'll flip through my cards. Oh, yeah. Okay, right. It's just getting, yeah, you're going through the cards, getting yourself, reminding yourself of what is important. Again, we're human, we forget, we need reminders. So set that up for yourself. And as you go through this process, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so share with me. Go on my social and share with me, what did you get out of this? What is your non negotiable morning routine? I love to hear that from people because everybody has something a little bit different. Okay, so I want to know what works for you. Maybe there's a special song, and as you're doing your 3x5 cards, your little reminders, your goals for the year, who you want to be, what is the meaning that you give to your life, and what's your legacy, all those things. Maybe there's a really beautiful special song that plays in the background because music is so powerful when it comes to all this stuff, right? So maybe that's part of what you do for yourself. Just these few tranquil moments that you're going to be giving yourself. And I'm going to venture to say, I'm getting a little ahead of myself because this is my next one, but I'm going to venture to say that there's one thing that you can do even before you get downstairs and make your coffee or your tea and get in your office or get in your car, wherever you're going. There's one thing. And that leads me to step number two, which is to practice gratitude. And why is that so important? Well, here's the thing. You're probably thinking to yourself, oh God, Carrie, I've practiced gratitude. We all heard that before. Of course we practice gratitude. We know what that is. And here's the funny thing. Here's the misconception about practicing gratitude is we all are like, of course I'm grateful. Of course I'm grateful when something good happens. I am absolutely grateful. I am grateful. But here's the thing, the tricky little thing about gratitude practice is it's a proactive thing. It's so easy to be grateful when something good happens. And that's awesome. And you should be all that, right? I don't want to shoot you, but it's good to feel grateful, right? It's good to feel grateful when something good happens. And we do that. We do. Humans are we're wired like that. We do feel grateful then. But the time that I want you to practice being grateful is when you set it up into your daily routine, right? So one of the things I'd like you to do in that non negotiable morning routine, if it makes sense for you, is to practice a little gratitude. And this is what I was saying about that starts even before you get downstairs. The gratitude starts the minute you wake up. The minute you wake up, I want you to spend a few moments in gratitude before you even get to that non negotiable morning routine. Why? Because that sets the tone for the day. And the universe loves when you're grateful. It loves when you're grateful. You could wake up and say, ah, this pillow is so comfortable and cozy. I'm so grateful for my pillow because I had this little love affair with my new pillow for a while. Because it was this pillow I got from my chiropractor and it was so comfortable and it just fit so perfectly behind my neck. It just made me sleep so well that I would wake up and that was a really easy one, right? I love this new pillow. Or maybe you have a nice new silk pillowcase or some nice sheets or the heat is warm and cozy, or maybe there's someone special next to you. Whatever it is, you can find something to bask in a moment or two of gratitude before your feet even hit the floor. So that's really backing up and getting out ahead of it, right? You get out ahead of it upstairs in your bed before you even get out of that bed. And contrast that to the alarm going off. You hit the snooze, you fall asleep, you wake up, you're late, and all sorts of expletives start coming out of your mouth before you even hit the floor. Now, that is no way to start our day, but we've all done it. We've all been there, right? No judgment. It's a judgment free zone. So start your day with that gratitude. That's what I mean by intentionally practicing gratitude. Something happens during the day, you're stressed out, get yourself to pause for a moment and see if you can think of one or two things that you're grateful for, because you can't be stressed and grateful at the same time. You ever notice that? Try that. You cannot be stressed and grateful at the same time. You can't. It shifts your mindset immediately. It rewires your brain. And one of the things that you can do is to, if you don't have a journal, it doesn't have to be a gratitude journal, but it can be anything. Before you go to bed at night, and it helps to really write it down. It's that kinesthetic, get the pen in hand and you're writing it. Write down what you're grateful. What did you like about today? What are you grateful for? Right? Just three to five things. Write it down. Oprah says that's one of the biggest things that she ever did in her life. The most life-changing thing she ever did was that practice of gratitude at night. So try it. That's what I mean by practicing gratitude. It becomes a practice like yoga. You do it deliberately. You don't just wait for the good things, because of course I know you're grateful when that happens. So let's find a way to be grateful during the day. Why? Because again, we're building that reserve. We're building that space within us. We're building that reserve. So when the stuff does hit the fan and we know it's gonna, we're just a little bit more prepared for it, right? We're getting out ahead of that mindset. We're building up that mindset so that it's sustainable throughout the day. So you're practicing that gratitude. You're putting that out. Why does the universe like it? I just said to you earlier, the universe likes that. Why? Because practicing gratitude and pointing out what's great in your life right now, the universe loves that, because it's like you're shouting, yes, yes, I love that. I want more of that. I want more of that. That's what you're doing when you say that. But you're also doing the opposite when we complain, when we scream and shout about what we don't like, or, what happened at work today and this person and that person. Guess what we're telling the universe? It seems counterintuitive, but you're saying to the universe, you like that. I know you're not really saying that with words, but vibrationally you are, because you're putting all your focus on it. Even neurologically, you're telling your brain that that's really important to you. You should look for more of that. So we got to be careful about what we're telling that brain, that RAS system. It's kind of like a net, if you want to think about it like that, that sits over the top of your brain. When you're telling that what's important, it's like when you wanted to buy a new car, that red car, and you start seeing that red car everywhere. Why? Because you told your brain it was really important to you. So now it's looking for it, it's scanning. That's why my podcast is called Look for the Good, because I want you to start scanning and looking for what is good. Because that is how, my friends, you will rewire your brain. Why? Because our biology is, we're wired to look for what's wrong, because that's what keeps us safe, right? When we used to live outside and we were in groups, when one person went into like the red zone, we all did. Why? Because that could mean there was a tiger or some dangerous predator, and we all needed to be alerted. We still do that to each other, but recognizing that and knowing how your brain actually works to keep you safe will help you to rewire it. And gratitude, it's been proven, there's studies on it, show is a really powerful and fast way to rewire this part of your brain. All right, we're going to break real quick. And when we come back, I want to talk to you guys about step number 3. Okay. So don't go anywhere. Come right back. Okay. Last step. This is the last step. Welcome back. If you guys are just tuning in now, I am talking about the 3 steps that are going to help you take that resolution, whatever you want to call it. Why resolutions don't work is what we're talking about. And this 3 steps that you can take that I'm telling you about, that are my secret formula to make these things come true in your life, right? To get that goal, get that objective. What is it that you most want? And we're on step number 3. So step number 3 is, I love this one. This is super cool. How do you take this and take that feeling? We're talking all about getting in our body, and things I'm asking you to do are some physical things that you're doing, right? So I want you to get this in your body. And how do you do that? Well, one of the ways is, and one of the things I love, and I talk about this in my book too, one of the most powerful ways to change your mindset quickly is to change your physiology. And we've been talking a lot about that hidden inside of these other things I'm asking you to do. But physically changing your body really helps to solidify this, like going out for a walk. I love going out for a walk, especially when I've just about had it standing at my computer and I need to change. Something needs to change. I need to change my mindset. I'm getting stale, maybe have a big call coming up. So I want to go out and revitalize myself, right? Getting out in nature. I'm doing two things. I'm getting out in nature. Sometimes I'm doing three. Getting out in nature, changing my physiology by walking, moving, swinging my arms, all my energy is changing in my body. And three, if I'm listening to music, that's an even more powerful way. Now I'm doing three really powerful things to change my mindset all at once. Or maybe you're listening to a podcast like this when you're out walking, because I do that too. So we're going to take advantage of when we move, when we change our physiology, we change our mindset. It's one of the fastest ways to do it, right? So I love that. I love teaching people that because it's a really easy one that you can do anytime. When I'd be stuck in the middle of writing my book and maybe I was trying to come up with like the perfect line, the perfect word, I was trying to remember a story, whatever it was, if I would leave and walk away from my desk and maybe go upstairs and switch the laundry or go outside, like I said, or just sit on the porch and strum my guitar with a glass of water and take in the sun, whatever it was, I was changing my physiology to clear my mind and change my mind, right? I'm changing my mindset. And every single time, and I want you to try this, when you come back down to your desk, or maybe you went outside at the office, you came back into your office, the answer is usually right there, right? Whatever it was that I was stuck on, maybe it's a solution. I get some of my best stuff either in the shower or when I'm out walking. Maybe it was a solution that popped into your head, something that you couldn't solve before because you were too focused on the problem. When we can step away, change our physiology, which changes our mindset quickly, we can come up with the answers to the questions that we most want answers for. It's a really powerful thing. So, using your body to change your mind is my third recommendation. And I also wanted to say, um, when we're changing our physiology, it's really important to bring in the feeling of what it is that we want, right? This is all part of changing our physiology. Even when I'm sitting here in the morning, flipping through my cards, maybe you're playing a special song, doing a meditation, right? A lot of times in my meditation, I'll think about something that I want, something I want to accomplish, maybe something I'm trying to manifest. And the most powerful part is to get to the feeling place of what it is that you want. Why is that important? What do you mean by that? Get to the feeling place. When you're sitting there with your eyes closed, or a lot of times if I'm out walking, I'll visualize it. What is it going to feel like when that's mine? What is it going to feel like? Say your goal is that you want to write a book. And I did that a lot when I was writing my book. I would imagine myself holding it in my hands. What is it going to feel like? Wow, a book that I actually wrote. What's it going to feel like when that shows up for the first time and I hold it in my hands? All those hours and tears, a lot of tears it took to get through writing this book. The tears, the frustration, the self doubt, the imposter syndrome, all the things that come up, all the things that come up in the process of what you want to do, because I felt them all too. And then even getting to the end and going, oh, I should, can I do this? Can I put this out? Nah, no, nobody's going to read it. No, who wants that? All those things that come up. So instead, I want you to think about it. Think about what it will feel like because you got over all that, right? Because all that's a reality. What is it going to feel like when you're the final moment of holding that in your hand, visualizing it? What's it going to feel like when you sign that for somebody who wants to buy it, or somebody who did buy it and read it, and then they see you and they come running over? I'm here to tell you there's nothing like this feeling. And they tell you, "Oh my God, your book changed my life. You changed the story in here about your dad was so similar to my story and you helped me so much." I'm choking myself up with that one. Picture that. And then you pick up your pen and you sign that book for somebody because your book or your fill in the blank, whatever it is you want to do, change somebody else's life. What is that going to feel like? What is that going to feel like? And when you can get to the feeling place of what it's going to be when you get there, you start to, again, you start to fill your body up with that. You're raising your vibration with that. You're raising your own expectations. You're making it a reality in your own mind. And guess what? The brain is super cool. The brain doesn't know the difference between the reality that you just created and gave it versus the real reality. It's why studies were done on musicians who can practice in the plane when they're flying to their big gig in their mind. They're only thinking about playing those notes. But when they show the brainwave activity, it's exactly the same as the people who are actually in the practice room practicing. That's some powerful, you know what, right? And there's studies and it's true and it's the way our brain works. So why not use that to your advantage and start to visualize? Before I ever had my first CD, I had a fake mock-up of a CD. I just put a picture of myself or whatever on there, a drawing, and I didn't even have 13 songs. I didn't have 13 songs. I had one or two, but I had 1 through 13 because I liked the number 13. I was going to have 13 songs on my first album. And I had the little mock-up, right? And I kept it in my little dream box and I would put things in there. I would write a fake check out of how much money I wanted to make that year and put it in that box. Right? So these are things, this is my creation box, right? These are things you can do to make it real, make it palpable. Before I had this book in my hand, I have a mock-up book over there on my shelf. I didn't know. I had a different title and a different picture and everything. It doesn't matter, but I had a mock-up book because I learned that from Wayne Dyer. When he would write his books, he would always start with the cover. Go to now you have Canva. You can go to Canva and make a beautiful cover for yourself on Canva of whatever it is that you're creating and put that on top, put it on top of another book of the book that I liked the shape and the size of. And I said, okay, that'll be my mock-up book. And every time I went into my office, I saw that and it just plants it. It makes it real. I could touch it. I could feel it. Right. I'm super visual. I like to see things. And so it made it really real. It put it within my grasp. And there it was on my desk. And I could see it and I could feel it. And every time I looked at it, I connected to that emotional feeling. Oh my God, what is it going to feel like? Can I really do it? I'm really going to write a book. What is it going to feel like when I'm holding it in my hand? Or fill in the blank. You want to have a baby, whatever it is, you want to make a CD, you want to write your first song, you want to write a poem, you want to do a kid's song, you want to do a kid's book, whatever it is that moves you, what is it going to feel like? Because there's a feeling that you want. That's why you want it. What is it going to feel like when you get that degree or certification? There's a feeling that you want. Tap into that feeling now. And then every time you visualize it, you tap into that feeling again. And this is going to get it in your body. This is not going to go to the wayside like just some offhanded New Year's resolution. You're going to own this. This is going to be yours. You're going to write about what it feels like. I have my book in my hand and it feels like this. And this is what this person is going to say to me about it. You're making this whole little movie in your mind, right? About what it's going to feel like. That, my friends, is how you get it into your body. And now it's not just a thought. It's a feeling. It's an experience. You can experience it before you even really get there. And when you do that enough times, you've already convinced yourself that it happens, and the brain will just find a way to make it happen even easier. All those synchronistic events will start to happen. The right people you just bump into and meet, the right things come your way. This opportunity might close, but this one opens and it was better, right? So all these things start to happen on your behalf because you've stepped into, you've owned that experience, you've practiced it enough times in your mind and your body that it's yours. It's just inevitable that it's going to happen. So those are my 3 steps, everybody. Let me just summarize them for you, okay? You're going to set up a non-negotiable morning routine. Number 1, that is so crucial and so important. You need to do that. We talked about different things you can do. You're going to figure out what works for you, what calms you the most, right? Figure out what calms your nervous system. You're going to start to build that reserve for yourself. You're going to do it every single morning. It's non-negotiable. If you have an appointment in the morning, you're going to find a way to get up early and do that before you have to leave. So that's number one. Number two, you're going to practice gratitude. You're going to set up a gratitude practice for yourself. It starts first thing in the morning. Remember, you're getting out ahead of this mindset. Get out ahead of it every day. Build that reserve. So when the stuff hits the fan, you're not scared. You know you've got a reserve in there. You know you can handle it because you've already taken steps to handle it better before it even happened, as opposed to knee-jerk reacting, right? You're going to go in there and figure out what those patterns are. Where do you go? What do you do when you're super stressed? You're going to figure that out, and then you're going to come up with an alternative for yourself. You're going to love it. And then number three, you're going to get your body involved, right? You're going to move your body. You're going to change your physiology to change your mind quickly. It works quickly. That's what I love about that. And you're going to imagine, you're going to feel it, like I talked about with the book example. You're going to feel what it is that you want in your hand or in your grasp or however you're going to feel it. You're going to feel what it is that you want, and you have already achieved it. It's already yours. It's just waiting for you to get there. You're going to create it in your mind, right? Just like those musicians practicing on the plane. You're practicing the feeling of it in your mind every chance you get, which is why you're going to make a concrete representation of whatever it is that you want that you can see every single day. You can do it. I know you can. And I can't wait to hear your stories. I want to hear from you, okay? Go to my YouTube page, go to my socials. You can go to my website, carrierowan.com. You can fill out the comment form there if you want, or you can see all the links to my socials and meet up with me there. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me which one of these three really moved you the most. What did you just run out and have to do? I'd like to know what it is that is most important for you next year. What do you want out of this year? What would change your life for the best? I want to know. And you know what? You can do it. I'm here to tell you, you can do it. If I can write a book, you can write a book. That's what you want to do. I don't know what it is you want to do. What is it that you want to do, though? I would love to know. So use these, guys. Use these skills. Practice them. Take what you like. Throw the rest out. And pay attention to those stories as this new year unfolds. What are those stories? What are the disempowering stories that you no longer want to tell yourself? And if you need some guidance, go grab my book on Amazon. I will guide you through it, all 13 chapters, step by step, with exercises at the end of each. This has been so fun to spend this time, just you and I. I'm so glad we could spend this time together. And I hope this has really helped you. And as a little gift, we're going to play a song before the end of this. So stay tuned for that. And everybody, here's to a healthy, happy, prosperous, and joyful new year. And remember, it is never too late to live your best story. Be well.
Thanks for tuning in to Look for the Good with your host, Carrie Rowan, best-selling author and mindset coach. Join us every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. right here at Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. If you weren't able to catch an episode, no worries. Just visit our website to find all the archived episodes of Look for the Good on demand so you don't miss a thing. And remember, it's never too late to live your best story. For additional resources or to find out about how you can work with Carrie directly, visit carrierowan.com for more details.